The reason being, the health bar and armor bar, select one of them, and the highest it can go up to is 1, right? So 1 is 100% filled, and 0 is 0% filled, and anything in the middle is 50% or whatever, depending on whatever value you give. Okay, so that's what this is. But obviously we are adding it manually, but we don't want that. We want these progress bars to be bound to this particular variable. So if the health changes for the character, that's going to reflect on the bars here. Okay, so the first thing is I'm going to select the bind button. I'm going to get the bind drop down. I'm going to click on create binding so that I can bind this particular field of the progress bar with something of my choice. Okay, so I'll create binding and it instantly opens up in a new graph. That's the function. It says get health bar percentage 0%, right? So the first thing is I need to access these two variables. Now how do I do that? Because I'm in a different blueprint here. You can try and type get health. It's not going to be there because it's the health bar, not the health. So what we have to do is we have to first get the player character, right? And once we get the player character, so the game now knows that there's a player character, but it needs to know exactly which player character are we talking about. So you need to cast this to third person character, right? Now you can either make this a pure cast, or you might want to connect this so that in case it fails, you can display some message. Either ways, that's up to you completely. All right, so now once we have that, of course we got to connect these two. Okay, so once we have that, now we can say that as third person character, we can access these two variables. So let's check if that's the case. And now if I say health and says get health and set health, those are the variables inside the third person character. Excellent. This is exactly what we want. So I'll say get health, and now all I want to do is connect this to this, and it does not need any conversion because this is also looking for a float value, because that's what it is. If I look at the designer, this is a float value. If you run over this, this says used to determine the fill position of the progress bar ranging 0 to 1, which means it's a float value. Okay, so that's why it did not ask for any conversion. It did not have to do any conversion at all. Now you may choose to go ahead and have something printing out to the console or the screen saying that there is no third person character, or a message of your choice. But I'm going to leave it here. I'm going to assume that this is going to work. I mean, it's gonna cast, and if it's gonna fail, then I won't know about it, but this thing won't work and also will not crash the game. That's important, right? So we compile that, and then we go back to the designer, and then we select the armor bar, and we do the same thing with the armor bar. So now it says get health bar percent 0, and now when I say create binding, it's gonna say get armor bar percent 0. Do the exact same thing here. The first thing is I will get the player character and move it back a little bit like this, and from here I will cast this third person character, connect this and connect this. Now again, as third person character, move this a little to the right. As third person character, I'm gonna get the armor bar, or get armor variable. Okay, and then just connect this to the return node out here. So again, float, it simply connects it without any conversion needed. And when I hit compile, now when I hit play, obviously I'm not going to see anything out here. That's because we have not really added this widget to the viewport. Okay, so now there are multiple ways to go about it. I mean, the code is going to stay the same pretty much every time you want to show a widget or any UI on your screen. The code is going to be the same, but you might just want to rethink, or uh, you might just want to think about the place where you want to put that code. Do you want the third person character to be calling that, or do you want the game mode to be calling that, or do you want the player controller to be calling that? But for now, I'm not going to think too much about that. We'll change that later on. I just want to see what the HUD looks like. So I'll simply add it to the third person character. We can remove it later on, no harm. So where will we add this? We want this as soon as the game starts, as soon as this guy, as the third person character, gets initiated. And the best place for that to happen is the event begin play. So search for begin play, and there it is. So bring that event node, and all we have to do first is we first have to create a widget. So I'll say create widget, right? And once we do that, and now select the class. Now there are two widgets. this is a default that comes along with this project, and this is the one that we created right now. So I'll select that. Now if I hit play, it's still not going to happen. That's because we just created the widget and we did not tell the engine where to display it. So for that, as we'll say add to viewport. Okay, and once we do that and we compile that and we play the game, and there you go. So now we have these two bars, and we have a red bar which is full, completely full, and we have a yellow bar which is also completely full. Now if you're not sure whether it's working or not, and which is which is a common question, I mean, which is a common concern, because it's all full, so we don't know if it's working or not. And that's because if you go back to your third person character, the health is 1 and the armor is 1. Now it might be working, it might not be working, we don't know. So let's change this to certain value. So I'm going to change the health to 0.2 as 20% health, and the armor to I don't know, 0.6. So it's got 60% armor and 20% health. Now when I hit play, there I can see that it's working. Okay, so it's indeed working. Our health bar and our armor bar are indeed working. That's great. Okay, so now that's about how to add this, and obviously we're gonna beautify this later on by adding fancy graphics and adding labels and everything so that people can understand. But we know that this is the way to go, and it's working. And also, this one is pretty simple. We don't have anything yet. We're just binding it simply, but we're not we're not changing any of these values, but going forward we will. This will get a little complicated, where when the player is getting hit by a projectile, the armor is going to go down, the armor is going to deplete, and the health is also going to deplete. And for our game, we're going to have auto generating armor but not auto generating health. Okay, and there's not going to be any regeneration of health automatically, but the armor will regenerate over a period of time. So that's all in the books, and that will come in the future videos. But we have things set up in a good way, and we know that things are working. Okay, so in the next video we'll move on with more of these things, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.